By the end of this video, you are going to know the top 10 AI trends that you need to know for the second half of 2026. AI is changing so quickly, and if you watch until the end of the video, you're going to be prepared and know how to take advantage of these trends. Whether you're a founder starting a business or if you're inside of a company, let's get started. So trend number one is the prompt first era is ending. And agents are what people are using more and more. So for 3 years, from when ChatGPT was released, the way you used AI was you typed a request and you got an answer. The new way people use AI is through agents, where your agent has tools, it has integrations, and it's going to loop through a process of acting and observing on what it does, going back to its goal, seeing if it completed it, and then going back and continuing to work until it's done. And this is the new way that people are interacting with AI. This is the new way that businesses and enterprises are interacting with AI. If you look at OpenAI's enterprise numbers, the usage is up 8x. Reasoning token consumption per organization is up 320x. So these are the type of metrics that indicate people are using agents to reason and take action instead of just using ChatGPT with a question and answer. And the reason this uses so many more tokens than just a basic ChatGPT question and answer is the agent is going to just be looping and working more continuously, and it's not necessarily waiting for a human to just ask a question. So this is a huge trend. We're going from just a prompting question and answer to more of an agent world where you have goals, the agent has tools, and the agent can continuously work for you. Trend two is about how businesses are using agents. Agents are getting used more and more in production. So Anthropic has a 2026 State of AI Agents report. 57% of organizations are running multi-step agent workflows, and 81% plan to expand into more complex use cases before the year's over. Gartner expects about 40% of enterprise apps to embed task-specific agents by the end of 2026, which is up from under 5% in 2025. And I would predict in a few years, this is going to be 100% of companies or 99% of companies. This is an opportunity in two different ways. So if you have your own company, you need to be using agents to become more productive, to get more work done. Any task you have at your company, you should first think, how can I use AI to potentially automate this or build a workflow agent around this? It doesn't necessarily mean that is going to be the right decision, but you should be thinking about that first. Okay, do I need to use an agent first, or can I use an agent first? And if you can't, okay, that's fine. We'll use a human. Maybe the solution is agent and human together, but these agents are getting better and better and are able to complete more and more complex tasks as the quality of the agents, the power of the agents continues to get better, as the cost continues to get lower with open source models like GLM 5.2, it's becoming more and more affordable to use agents. So the agents crossing into production is a result of higher quality models, lower cost, and also better tooling around the agents. Trend number three is pretty big, the restricted release playbook. This started a few weeks ago with Fable 5. It was released to the public. And then a few days later, the government said that only US citizens can use it, and Anthropic took it down completely. Hopefully within a few days or a few weeks, it's going to be released again, maybe by the time you watch this video. But then after that, OpenAI previewed GPT 5.6 Sol alongside their Terra and Luna model, which are less powerful. And Sol is going to a limited set of trusted partners who are going to basically test the model before it gets released to the general public. So this is what I think is the new trend, the new pattern moving forward. I think every new frontier model is going to go through a pre-release period, restricted release period before the general public gets access to it. The next trend is about the browser. Now, I think this is still up for debate. The battle is still ongoing. For example, OpenAI shipped ChatGPT App Atlas, which was their own version of the browser, but it never really took off the way they were hoping. Google is building AI features directly into Chrome, which I think is more likely to take off just because so many people already use Chrome. The way that I see the way that AI is interacting with browsers and the trend here is that AI is just getting better and better at browser use. But the way that is going to take shape, I think, is more inside of agentic tools. So Codex, for example, has its own browser. Claude has a browser as well. The Claude app, the desktop app, has a browser built in as well. So if you're in Codex and you have an agent, it can open a browser and it can take action in that browser. So I think that the trend here is that browsers are going to become more and more integrated into agentic tools. I think that the opportunity here is to think about what are tasks that I could potentially automate with AI agents that I would need them to take action in a browser. So Codex also has a feature called record and replay, where you can literally take action on a browser. It will record it, and then create a skill to replicate that, but with the agent doing it. So I think that's the trend, and you're not limited by necessarily what the agent can do on its own. It can more and more take action inside of a browser. This next trend talks more to that. So computer use is going enterprise grade. So for example, Google's Gemini 3.5 Flash, it ships screen capture and remote control as a native tool. Anthropic's computer use is production ready for agents that can log into third-party portals. Microsoft's Copilot Studio is integrating computer use for Microsoft 365. So this is the trend. It's happening on the enterprise scale as well. So if you work inside of an enterprise, you should be trying to get your team to use these tools. If your company has access to some of these enterprise tools that Anthropic and Microsoft are creating, then the same opportunity is there for you. What can you automate inside of your team? And I think that the other kind of trend or thing to think about is like, how is this going to affect companies that are automating more and more and using computer use inside of their companies? So this next trend is huge. The inference cost is collapsing, but not in the way that you might think. So there is a huge price spread across LLMs right now. So just as an example, DeepSeek 4.1 Flash. Now, Flash is their less powerful model, is 12 cents per million input tokens. Now, even DeepSeek V4 Pro is 43.5 cents per million tokens in, 87 cents per million tokens out. Compare that to Opus. It's 10 cents in and $10 in, $50 out. So it's a massive price discrepancy. And these two models are not that different. Even if we go to GLM 5.2, this is 95 cents in, $3 out. So GLM 5.2 might be even better than DeepSeek V4 Pro right now. This is the newest open source model that everyone is talking about at the moment. So the price discrepancy is massive. Now, the frontier models, I think, are still the best, and they're still leading. We talked earlier about how their top models are not even available to the public because they're so powerful. Hopefully they'll be available soon. But there's a huge price discrepancy. Inference prices are collapsing. And this is going to lead into some more trends I'm going to talk about in a second. But the opportunity here is, how can you use open source models to save money and only use the frontier premium models on the tasks that actually require it? So the next trend about open source is not only about the price discrepancy, it's about closing the gap. So if you look at the benchmarks. Now, benchmarks are only one way to actually gauge how good an AI model is. But if you look at the benchmarks, the open source models are now within 2 to 5% of the closed source models. And in the second half of 2026, it's possible that we'll see an open source model that is as good, or it's possible even better than a frontier model. So these open source models are closing the gap in the quality. It's not quite there yet, but in the second half of 2026, it could close that gap completely, potentially. The next trend is about integrations and about how the integration standard is not settled yet. So MCP was the first hot trend around integration. Tools like Claude, Cursor, and Klein built around MCP. But MCP isn't necessarily the 100% agreed upon standard, but I think things are changing moving forward. In March of 2026, Perplexity publicly abandoned MCP for direct APIs, citing that tool schemas eat context window tokens, cross-server authentication is friction, and advanced features go unused in production. So basically, to translate that, the AI models can just call APIs directly, and then which saves a lot of token usage as opposed to having to have the full tool schema from the MCP in the context window. So I think the trend is going to be more towards agents using direct APIs instead of using MCP. So this is important to know if you're building AI tools and you want to preserve your context window. Think about how you can use direct API instead of MCP. I'm building an AI agent tool called instapilot.ai, And I'm thinking about this as I'm building integrations into the agent harness. The next trend is AI FinOps going mainstream. So financial operations, this, when Claude Code was first released, companies basically gave unrestrained access to their employees to spend as many tokens as they could. And some companies even had leaderboards of who was spending the most on tokens. And I think that the big trend in the second half of 2026 is that companies are spending too much on tokens. And there's going to be a massive trend around cost observability, optimization, and making sure that companies are getting value and ROI out of the AI usage. This ties into some of the open source trends that I talked about earlier. I think a lot of companies are going to want a router to send most of their tasks, let's say 80% of the tasks or coding tasks, to an open source model that's 90% less expensive, and then use the frontier models for the tasks that genuinely need it. And I think there's a huge opportunity to help companies make sure that they are using the right model for the right task. The next trend is about software that's starting to build itself. And this is a direct result of the models and tooling getting stronger and better. Claude Code is now able to get much further off of one prompt than you ever were before. It's able to work agentically. It can work towards a goal. It can loop. Software is able to get so much further. And I think in the next half of 2026, we're just going to see this trend accelerate. We're going to see more and more software factories where asynchronous coding agents can collaboratively work together to produce software. So the opportunity here is, if you're a founder, it's getting easier and easier to build software if you have an idea. As a result, I think that the quality bar is getting higher and higher of what people expect out of software. And I think that the differentiation that you need to have is more on marketing and distribution. And you need to think about, okay, if anyone can build an app, the way to succeed isn't just by building it, but it's by having distribution or some other differentiated advantage to help you succeed. If you enjoyed this video, click the link in the description to subscribe to our 2-minute brief for AI builders. It covers every update that you need to know as an AI builder, sent to your email every morning for free. Click the link in the description to sign up and get the very next one. I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get more free content like this. Leave a comment below to let me know what you think of this video. Is there anything I missed? Love to hear your thoughts on these trends or any other trends that you think are happening in the second half of 2026 and what the opportunities are around those trends. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.